Great. So the wonderful thing about playing with our food is we can each make a board that is exactly what we want to eat. Nobody has to, make anything you don't want to make. And traditionally, a charcuterie board is mostly cured meats, but the trend right now is to put anything and everything on that board. I like to call them grazing boards because, it's really great to graze on. And for me, I'm on the West Coast. I'm making mine in the afternoon. My son's coming home from college for the beginning of his spring break, and this is what we're going to graze on for dinner. And who knows, maybe we'll add something else to it. But because it's the first day of spring, I'm going to show you a garden themed way to put this grazing charcuterie together. And we also have on deck a garden version of the gin and tonic. So are any of you making gin and tonic along with me? Yep, Kate, all right, getting in the spirit there. So this gin and tonic is called a garden gin and tonic because it has vermouth in it. So typically you don't see vermouth in a gin and tonic, right? You see, gin and tonic. And a lot of people think of a gin and tonic as, the quintessential British drink. But let me tell you, if you ever go to Spain, man, those people have the gin and tonic knocked out. And it's typically served in a big wine goblet. So that is how I'm going to make mine today to make room for the garnishes that I'm going to put in. And I'm also, because as I said, it's the West Coast, I'm using the non-alcohol, or I'm going to actually do a low alcohol version because I've got real vermouth. I have this Ritual gin alternative, and it smells, oh, sorry about that noise. It smells great. It's very, very botanical. And I think that the reason that this cocktail got called the garden gin and tonic is because vermouth is a white wine that has extra botanical flavor in it. So it's steeped in herbs, and it's what I actually like to use for cooking as well. And I like to use it for cooking, like for deglazing and whatnot, because it's so easy to keep on hand. A bottle of vermouth will last about a year at refrigerator temperature, so you don't have to worry about wasting something really good that you're drinking in your pot. So let me just show you first. I'm going to put a couple garnishes. Let me just close my kitchen door there. I'm going to put a couple garnishes in my glass, including some cucumber. So what I'm going to do here is I have a peeler, and I like this Y-shaped peeler, and I'm going to take off the first couple strips of my cucumber just to get a lot of the dark green off. I actually might use those later. I'm going to set it aside. And now I'm going to make 2 thin strips of cucumber. I'm going to put those down in my glass. So here's my glass, and I'm just going to put them down in the bottom like this. Maybe this other camera will show you a little better. So I've got them in there kind of against the side, which is what I wanted. And then I'll put the ice in. And the ice is going to hold, I'll put a little ice in. The ice is going to hold my cucumber in place. And if you're making this with gin, you would use 1.5 ounces. I'm going to use 1.5 ounces of my gin alternate from Ritual. So I've got 1, and then the other side is 1/2, and 1/2 ounce of vermouth. And let me get this out of the way. I will end up putting a little bit more ice in there. I've got a bunch of garnishes too. So Kate has snow on this beautiful first day of spring. Anybody else have some challenging weather? Not yet. Okay, a couple dashes of bitters, orange bitters if you have them. Bitters are great. They just bring up the flavor of all the botanicals in there. Again, not a traditional gin and tonic edition, but it's for the garden version of the gin and tonic. And I have a lime and an orange. So our recipe calls for a grapefruit, but I couldn't find a nice grapefruit in the market today. So I went with an orange, which I already had on hand. And I'm going to put a little piece of lime that I'm going to squeeze first. And also a section of orange. Maybe I'll also make I'm going to make a little lime garnish for my glass as well. come back to that in a second. And I might actually use a little bit of this orange for color in my charcuterie board as well. So right now what I have in my glass is I've got that cucumber. I've got a slice of orange and lime. And I've got the alcohol alternative and the vermouth. And now I'm going to finish the ice and top that off with tonic water. So the great thing about a bubbly drink is the bubbles in the drink, and I like to buy individual tonic water so that they don't go flat. This is the Trader Joe's. The bubbles will help mix the drink. But I am going to encourage it to mix a little bit. I've got a bar spoon. I'm just going to bring some of that up and then finish topping it off. That is a really great springtime, especially if you opt for the lower alcohol version of the drink. I've got so much in front of me, I don't have any place to put things down. Yeah, so cheers. There's a giant spring garden, very low alcohol gin and tonic.
I thought it was going to have way too much alcohol in it, but it seems like it's just got a little bit. It's not going to overwhelm.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if I used all gin in this, because I really want it to be a larger portion. So in Spain, maybe because it's hotter than England, you tend to have a much bigger pour. So it's a much bigger glass with a lot more ice than you would see in. But you can add almost any garnish that you want to that. The recipe also suggests a lavender sprig, and I couldn't find one that was, organic and hadn't been sprayed. And so I just opted not to put that in there, but very fruity, very light. And if you haven't tried some of the new, alcohol alternatives, these low proof alternatives, they're great. I mean, this is very herbal. It's like a kind of a dry soda, really, like a less sweet soda. So.
Could you use something besides the bitters? I'm allergic to orange juice or any orange derivatives, so I didn't want to get anything because I didn't want to swell up on.
Yes, swelling up is never really a comfortable thing to do, whether you're on the camera or not, right?
Right.
Yeah,
and I'm doing this board. A friend's coming over after we're done for her birthday is today, so this is dinner. Oh. So. Perfect dinner. Yeah, I would just omit the bitters. It's really, Traditionally regular bitters, Angostura bitters, and I could look at the ingredients here, do not have orange in them. Just the orange bitters have some orange peel in them. Okay. And yeah, if you're really allergic, sometimes these, it just says like vegetable extract. So you never know if they mean orange or, not mean orange. So yeah, you can just omit it. It's fine. And you could do like berries or something in there too. Like you could do strawberry and lemon and cucumber, and that would taste really good too for a combination.
Absolutely. Okay. In fact, you could take, before you add the ice and everything else, instead of the cucumber, I like the cucumber because I used to work at a restaurant that had a Spanish bar attached to it, and they always put a cucumber in the gin and tonic. It's kind of my throwback favorite. But you could actually crush a strawberry in the bottom of the glass first and then build the drink on top of it. That'd be delicious. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it kind of would refer back to, there's another British summertime drink called a Pim's Cup, which uses a different, kind of alcohol, but, you crush and or sangria, right, where you put the fruit in all together. So yeah, very, very good for spring and summer.
We have a lot of really nice tonic waters, like an elderflower tonic water now, and all these fun flavors.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and if you can't find the elderflower tonic water, you could put a little bit of either elderflower soda, which you can sometimes find, or the there's a liqueur now. I can't remember the name of it. In that beautiful lime green bottle, emerald green bottle, just gorgeous.
Saint Germain.
Saint Germain. That's right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that would be absolutely delicious.
That stuff is fantastic, even alone. It's so.
It is.
Sweet.
Sometimes floral flavors taste a little bit like soap, but that is not one that I ever feel like I'm washing my hands when I drink it. So it's great.
And I've had it in like a champagne and the Saint Germain. And
yes.
It's like a, champagne.
Yeah. No, there's, very many of the liqueurs go really well in a glass of champagne. And that would be another great springtime beverage to enjoy with your charcuterie board today or your grazing board. So, one of the classics from Dijon, which is where I did my culinary training, is a cassis. So you buy a creme de cassis and you put a little bit in the champagne, and that's called a Kir Royale. But also all of those beautiful flavored liqueurs would be great. So highly recommend that. All right, so on we go to building a garden on a plate. So I have here a couple different alternatives. So I have this big white platter. I also have a board. And because I have a lot of ideas, I might kind of go back and forth and build two. I don't know. My son's 22. I feel like he could eat probably one of these by himself. But let me start here because I think it's easy to see. So traditionally, when you're building a charcuterie board, you might think about some of the things that go really well with the meats like olives and nuts. And I'm going to use these at the end to kind of fill in. And so I did find there's a jar of olives at my local grocery store that comes with some, like this is this is a pepper, and there are some marinated garlic cloves in there. So I've got kind of a nice assortment out of that bottle of olives. So sometimes that's a fun thing to look for when you're going to use it for a charcuterie plate. Let me just move these right now. So when I'm thinking about this, really, I want to put my big things down first and then kind of work the small things around it. And one of the big things I'm going to have is a flower. So has anybody tried to make the iconic Instagram salami flower? Not yet? Okay. It's really not hard. It seems kind of funny, but it's not hard. So let me show you. It really helps to have a glass of some kind. And depending on the size of the salami, so this one is about the same diameter as the glass. If I was going to use this smaller, I'm going to show you, I've got a smaller pepperoni. It's smaller than the diameter of the glass. I would need like 20 of them to fill up this glass. So something that's about the same, a glass that's about the same diameter as your salami or meat. We can do this with all sorts of round things and irregular things. But all I'm going to do is put 3 pieces down. So I've folded it over the edge of the glass here, like so. And I can show you a side view of that. So I've just got the glass and I folded 1 piece of salami into it like that. And then I'm going to put another one next to it. I'm going to do 3 around the outside of the glass. 1, 2, and then this is the empty spot that it doesn't have one yet, 3. So they're overlapping a little bit. And your flowers, I guess, tend to come in odd number petals. So you'll see 3s and 5s and whatever. So I could put 1 more around the outside, but that would be 4, and that might not look quite as good. So I've got more of the salami on the inside and less on the outside. And now my next layer, I'm going to start at one of these junctions where the 2 salami rounds meet together, and I'm going to go on top of that one. And I'm just going to go around the glass doing that. So I've got about 2/3 of the meat inside the glass and 1/3 outside, if that makes sense. So it looks like a very odd drink right now. And don't forget to wash this glass before you drink out of it. Otherwise, it's going to taste like, I don't know, the meat store. It's probably not the worst thing to taste like, but, you know. You put your milk in it, you might be surprised. So I've gone around 3 layers now, and you can see I've got a hole in the center. And I'm going to go 1 or 2 more layers until I really can't see that hole. And I'm not pushing down too hard into the glass at this point because I do want to fill that hole. And each layer, I'm just trying to go across the edges of the other layer. So that was 1 more layer. And then I'm going to put my hand on top of the meat and turn the glass upside down and jiggle it off. And there I have a little rose. Well, actually, this is a pretty big rose. So once again, all I did was there was my glass. I built it this direction. And I put enough salami in there so that I couldn't see the hole. And now I could push that down. I could put another layer in, but that's going to be a lot of salami. So I put my hand on top, flip the glass, jiggle it off, and I have my rose. And I am going to set that down here just off center. So I'm going to think of this as a garden kind of growing up this way. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be a growing garden. You can do this any way you want to. I'm really excited to see what you might choose to do here. We're going to come up with 4 completely different ideas, I'm sure. So let me show you another way. I'm going to show you 2 more ways to make neat flowers before we move on to a couple of other items. You could do this with thin sliced like provolone cheese, or we'll do some mango in a minute. But let's just say you have some smaller cuts like these pepperonis that I showed you before. So these would take, if I went around that same glass, if I tried to go around the same glass, I'd have like 45, little pieces of pepperoni all around the same. And if I got a smaller glass, I could do it like a shot glass. I could make a small one, but there's actually an easier way. So I'm going to lay 3 pieces of pepperoni together. You could maybe do 4, but I think 3 is going to do it fine. Actually, let me move this a little bit so I can show you on the cutting board. I'm just going to lay them down there, slightly overlapped. So I think you can see how they're just slightly overlapped. And I'm going to fold them. We like to call this hot dog fold or taco fold. So I'm folding them the long way. And I have a toothpick standing by. So you might want to have a toothpick. I actually have I couldn't find any toothpicks. I've got one of these longer kind of cocktail pick things. The toothpick would be great. So now I've got this folded in the hot dog direction, and I'm just going to roll it from one side to the other. So I rolled it across and it makes this little rosette. Ta-da! And it will unroll itself on the board if you don't skewer it with something. So I'm just skewering the bottom of it. And one reason I kind of like this is if you are going to move this onto a plate, like if you have a big platter and you're going to have people share the platter, they could take this with them. So you could have that skewered with a little piece of cheese on each side, or I bought a few little things, like I've got a cherry tomato here. So if you put something like a little bit of the salami and maybe a cherry tomato and then maybe a piece of cheese, that'd be a very nice item to pick up, right? Like you could pick that up, take it with you. So let me see what I can do with this. Put these guys down just for now. So now if we look back down on it, so I kind of placed it sort of coming off the edge here. All right, we'll work on that. We can work on our positioning, right? So I think I'm going to do a couple more of those just because I really like the way they look. And I think they're very practical. Again, just because of how I said it, you could pick them up. So there it is again. And I was trying to remember to put something on before I skewered it, but put that on the edge there. Let's see. I'm going to do one more of those just to make my skewer look nice. I know I could put an olive on there, right? The olives would be, this is where you want to make sure you got pitted olives, but the olives would be great on a skewer like that. And if I just slip that back off, I'm going to slip one olive on first, and then my little rosette, and then another olive. So I have this guy. So I have him like this. You could also, if you wanted to, make a sliver of olive and put that down in the middle and make it fancy. So I cut a little sliver of this olive off, and I'm just going to tuck it in the middle to make it look like there's a little thing in the middle.
All right. Okay. One last way to make a meat flour. I have a little ramekin here to hold this one. And because I want to show you, it doesn't only have to be salami. So a lot of times people see, and salami can be very strong flavored. Sometimes it's nice to have an alternate to that one flavor. So I have some mortadella, which is kind of like chef's bologna, right? It's a thinly sliced round meat. And all I need to do is put my finger kind of in the middle like this and gather it up. And it looks very like a petal. So if I tuck a few of those into my bowl here, it's going to take a minute just to get a few of them. So if you don't have a little ramekin, you can also go back to the toothpick or skewer idea. I can also skewer them like this. They make a lovely little rosette. I'm going to gather several of those together. So I like to show people it doesn't only have to be really high-end cold cuts. I was able to get some really thinly sliced ham at my butcher too. Not my butcher. I didn't go to the butcher. I went to the grocery store. So if I just kind of crinkle those guys up, that looks really nice, like a flower. And I also have, lost my ham. See, just very pedestrian sandwich ham. Nothing special, but one of the things I liked about it was it had this rough edge on it. So see how it's got kind of the outside of the ham. And if I did that same little trick that I did with my pepperoni, I lay it down like this and I give it that hot dog fold. And then I give it a little roll like that. Yep. It looks like that, right? So I've just done the same thing that I did with the pepperoni, but now because this is more flexible, I can turn back the edges and I can get a little bit more realistic looking rows. So I'm just going to fill in here. In fact, I can do that with my mortadella too. I think I like that idea. So let's do a few layers like this. There we go. I've done my same little fold and I'm going to roll it. All right, so I've got it all rolled up in a neat, like a rosebud. But now again, because it's flexible, if I just turn the edges back, I can make it look like a slightly opened rose. Like that. And those of you who are super artistic, you probably could get into even putting a little sliver of something inside there, like a little piece of bell pepper, something, you know, stamen-like. There we go. All right, I'm going to put these aside for just a second. Now that same trick will work on anything that you have that is flexible. So I have these mango slices. And I need to go in and pick out the ones that are a little bit bigger. These are pretty firm. They're not the really soft ones that they have at Trader Joe's. And that's okay. I'm sorting through to pick out the ones I want. A little piece like this, if I took a sliver, I could make what I was talking about, that stamen in my other piece here. So look, now I put a little mango inside my mortadella just to make a little flower stamen. Let's do the same. These are a little bit hard. I can put them on my glass. This is the glass I was using before. It's got a little bit of a wider. Remember how I said it's nice when the piece is the same diameter as the opening. So my mangoes are mostly smaller. So I've picked a glass that has a smaller opening.
So I'm going to build a mango rose just like my very first one. But this one will probably have 5 on the outside because these pieces are kind of small. Let me find one more that matches. Actually, I've got some really big ones. Maybe I'll do the big ones and I'll put the small ones on the inside. See how we can readapt that. So I'm just doing the same thing. I've just folded my fruit inside. And, you know, one tip is this piece has one thicker edge. It looks like this might have been where the stem of the mango was, and a thinner edge. I'm going to put the thicker edge down in the middle rather than having it on the outside, because that will make the flower, I don't know, look a little more realistic, I think. I'm really having to kind of bend them to get in there. There we go. And now I can put those smaller pieces back in. So, you know, one other thing that I really like about using this mango is the acidity of the mango really goes well with all the saltiness and savoriness of any smoked and cured meat. So eating this dried mango with the meat is really delicious. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it over. And I have this beautiful giant rosebud. And again, I can fold it back like I did with the more flexible meat, just to give it more of a look. And depending on how bendable your mango is, like mine just is wants to come apart, I'm definitely going to need to skewer this one. And if it doesn't want to skewer, then I recommend these little ramekins if you have them. So I think I'll put this guy in a ramekin like this and turn it out. I can fit another piece in there. Okay. Here we go. So I have a yellow rose and I have these neat looking roses. Let's put this aside. So here's what I have going on so far, and I'm building it a little bit heavier on this other side of my platter. So I've got a lot going on over here. And so maybe I want to make some stem looking items down this direction. So I can come back to my cucumber. This is also delicious and it's going to be refreshing to eat along with everything that we had. So I will, you know, in fact, I had these are the pieces I already took off. I might just lay those down for decoration. So there's a lot of things that you can use that are edible on a garden charcuterie board to give the suggestion of leaves and stem and grass. One of them, I found these giant bay leaves. I was out of bay leaves and I was at my Indian grocery store. I have never seen such big bay leaves before. They're enormous, but I can tuck a few of those up here just to give it a little bit of, I wouldn't necessarily want to eat them, but they are edible, right? Put them up there. Another idea aside from your cucumber peelings, which I'm going to cover in just a second, would be maybe some green onion. So I have a little piece of green onion here, and maybe you already know the trick that if you slice this through the white edge of the green onion, slice it the long ways. I'm just going to make a quarter cut through that. And then if you soak that in ice water, you end up with this. So you get a little green onion flourish, a little flowery thing. So I can put that up there too. That's going to look really nice. Maybe I want that even a little higher. I'm going to put that in a little. Okay, I have a secret weapon for all of my trays. It's a vegetable that's become more and more and more popular. Does anybody know what this is? No, we are a small group. If you want to stay off mute, I am perfectly fine with that. You guys are, once your fingers are oily from salami, you don't have to touch your computer.
Is that a turnip?
It is not. I think
Is it
it's
a
the same
rutabaga?
family though. Nope.
Not a rutabaga either.
Here's a hint. When I cut it into it, it looks like this.
What's a beet?
Oh, it's a beet. It's
It's not. It's not even a
Radish.
beet.
oh,
So I like it more. Beets are great for these, but they will stain everything, right? This is called a watermelon radish.
oh yes. I
Yeah.
just never seen one that big.
Yeah, you might see them in the stores and not really know what to do with them. They don't look so impressive from the outside, but they're so cool when you slice them thinly. You get these gorgeous big pink, they're just so showy and gorgeous. I feel like I'm cheating because they're so pretty. All I have to do is slice them and put them on there.
Perfect. What are we doing?
A few of those. And they're delicious. If you like radishes, I just love the flavor. So
They're
I
just
am
hanging
trying to
out,
eat
those greens?
less, tortilla chips and those kinds of things these days. So I keep some cut radish like this and jicama in a big jar of water in my fridge, and I'll grab those to eat with my cheese spread or all the things I like to eat.
Let's try these together.
Okay, so I've got some really pretty color from that. My cheese. Let's put some cheese. I have a wedge of cheese that is already in a triangle, and that gives me a little bit of a design advantage. I'm going to cut some thin slices. And obviously cheese is not a necessity if you're like dairy sensitive or if that's not what you want to do. But I really like these. All you have to do is cut and you get a beautiful triangle. And I might put a little bit of radish down under this cheese just so that it stands out on my white tray. This is where if I had used my wooden board, I'd be able to see this a little better. So let's see if I can do that. The other thing that you can do when you, if you have a tray that's the same color as your cheese, you could do, so I have some rosemary, and it just happens that my rosemary outside has flowers on it, which is absolutely beautiful. If I put my cheese on top of the rosemary, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. I'm going to fan that out. And look, I broke a piece. Yay, I get to snack on some cheese. All right. So this is looking very springy. So I know that most of you are not on the West Coast, but we had rain yesterday, which we have needed so badly. So nice to get a little spring rain. And I'm happy it wasn't snow. That's all I can say about that. So there we go. I have highlighted my cheese with a little bit of greenery underneath it. Let me show you another cool little trick. I had some already little tomatoes that I had for a salad. So check this trick out. I love this trick. I am going to just take my knife and cut, this is the stem end of the tomato. I'm going to make one cut about halfway down the tomato, not all the way down. Like that. So I've cut a slit into the tomato. And now I'm going to cut again the same slit. So I'm cutting a little 4 opening, like a petal, like a little flower. And then I had some soft goat cheese. And it wasn't very squeezy. So I added a little bit of milk to it so that I could put it in a little bag and squeeze some in there. You could use a zip top bag for this, but we did some gingerbread houses over Christmas, and I had a couple of these little piping bags left. So watch this. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of this cheese in the middle of my tomato. and makes a little tulip. So you could do that. Isn't that cute? And if you wanted to, so I have a little bit of sage here. You can put them, you can kind of arrange them so that they look like they've got, flowers coming up out of them.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. So I'm going to
We have these.
put these on my board like that. I'll show you from above in just a second. I'm going to put about 4 of those on there because the other thing is they taste great. I really like in a little board like this when you can put something you can just pick up and pop in your mouth and it all tastes good together. Because otherwise it can be a little bit of work, right? To find your crackers and find, but just a little tomato like that. There we go.
We're off.
No, we are on you.
No.
There we go.
Everybody can hear us.
And then some of the tomatoes are a little juicy. So some people take the seeds out. I don't know. I like that. I like the seeds in the tomatoes.
Yeah, that's cute.
It is. I wish we had a little like soft goat something.
Yeah, a little, a little, you could even use some
Another little like,
cream cheese. You just mash up a little cream cheese with some
Cream
salt,
cheese.
pepper, some dried, herbs if you don't have anything else fresh. And just squeeze that in there. That's really lovely. Makes kind of like a little dip. It gives you some dip in there. All right.
That boysen cheese would be really good too. That boysen or whatever that's
Yeah,
called.
the boursin cheese. That
Boursin, yeah.
I thought about that, but I already have I'm really opposed to food waste, which I'm sure most of you are as well. I just happen to already have some goat cheese, but yes, boursin would be really great for this. And you can do the same idea with one of these little mini peppers. And instead of cutting through it like a 1/4, I'm cutting some triangles into it.
Oh, pepper.
These little mini peppers are so handy. And then one more probably. One more. So I cut through it and it made a little, again, makes another kind of a tulip like this. And if you cut the bottom off, it will stand up. So you could do that. And then these become kitchen snacks. This is what you snack on while you're making your board. This is why the chef is never hungry as soon as the charcuterie is done, right? All the yummies. Okay. So I have some sage, I have some rosemary. I also found out in my garden a little bit of mint. Mint is another really pretty leafy item if you're looking for some leaves in your for your garden. I'm gonna tuck that up here. All right, what else do we have here? I have so much stuff out. I'm going to put this guy up here. And I think I'm going to put some of my soft cheese in that too.
Yeah.
All right, and I did get, I love this idea. I went to go find a round cheese because I like to have several different shapes. And I found one of these bries that, this is a camembert, but the same idea. It came in this little wooden container, right? And I can use this. So I had some extra, well, you could use some radish in there if you didn't have it, but I had some Swiss chard, like some little bits and ends. You can line this so that the wood doesn't, I don't know what that wood's made out of, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I put a little bit of lettuce, or I really like to have Swiss chard when I'm building a charcuterie board because it's got all this texture and color. It's really pretty. Maybe I just need to break off a little piece here for that. And then I could put my olives in there. If I was building it on the other board where I needed, to contain it more because my wooden board, that doesn't have the nice edges that this one has. So I've got my olives with all those little things in it. If I put it in there, now I'm not going to have olive juice running out all over my, wherever my stuff is. So that's an idea. All right, but I have this beautiful round cheese and I want to put a few slices on that. And you can decide if you want to put the whole cheese out
Or if you want to cut it into slices, and again, you've heard my theory. I really like to make it easy for people who are coming up to the board just to grab a bite. And maybe that's because, I've seen my kids destroy these things. They come up and I'm like, oh, it was so pretty. So I've got a half of this, and I think what I'll do is cut it into some wedges. So maybe half of it is going to go into 6 little wedges here, and those will be easy to pick up. And I might even lay them on their sides a little bit. They're a little sticky. And this is another good place if you needed a little bit of color, just so that your cheese stands out on that white background. Oh, it's nice and sticky. I've had my camembert out of the fridge for a little while, so it's really nice. And this is how you want it. See how you get that nice cheese pull, that nice goo. So good. These guys on here. So I'm going to make this look like the sunshine down here in this corner. All right. Okay, if you made a gin and tonic, don't forget about it. You don't want it to get all watered down with the ice. Make sure to take a sip. We're never too busy to sip our gin and tonic. If we are, we need to check our priorities, right? Cheers. All right, let me look around and see what else I have. I have some space here still. I have a little space. Let me give you the overhead view. So I've got my sort of meat heavy corner. I've got my cheese down here. I can definitely fill in some of this space with the nuts. I love almonds in here.
Oh, whoa, look at her board.
Yeah. There's another little broken guy. I think I'm going to take the broken piece off and rearrange this one. And I have a little bit of mustard. I love mustard with all these things. I think I might just tuck that in the corner over here. You know what I'm missing here, maybe I've got the mango, but a little bit more fruit would be nice. And it is spring, and in my area, at least, the strawberries are in season. And I think I'm gonna exchange these, my scraps of cucumber, because the more I look at them, the more I just think, they're just kind of okay. I can do better. I've got some chives. I'm gonna throw some chives down there. So I've got those chives to kind of suggest my stems. And now maybe I'll just put some beautiful strawberries around. So I can clean my knife off from the cheese. You know, one thing you could do is just leave the green part on the strawberry if you wanted to, because it does make it easy for people to pick up the strawberry. And when I do that, I like to be sure that it's really well washed, and then I kind of gather it up like that so it stands up. So I can put a few whole strawberries down like that. And I did rinse these. And then you could, if you wanted to, you could cut the stem out in a V shape. Now it looks a little bit more like a heart. And I can, in fact, I've lost my little paring knife. I can actually trim this to make it a little bit more heart-shaped. I can have like some hearts on there. That's sort of nice for spring, especially if I cut that in half. When it lays flat, it will definitely look like a heart. We'll put those around the edges. It's very tempting to not eat all my strawberries. Okay, I have a strawberry I don't love. See this one? It's got the green shoulders. It picked a little bit too ripe. So I'm going to cut this guy. Just cut it off like that. And I'm going to stand them up like this on the cutting board just because they look fun. It's great to have them in different orientations. So I have a little interest here. So I've got some strawberries whole. I've got a few in half. I've got one standing up. I could make another one. Oh, yeah, this one's got a bad spot on it. Stand a few up like that. They look great like that. And then I can come back here with my olives again. And maybe I'll just sneak them out of the tray here.
No.
All right, so once again, I really do like this one little leaf to contain my olives because my olives are nice and juicy. Got a lot of little pickled garlic cloves in there. That was more than I thought. I'll leave you over there. All right. So then I just take one more look at it from a global perspective. And I think, what am I missing? Could I use a little more cheese? Absolutely. I think I'll slice a little more cheese and make a second layer up there. And I'm finding, so here's a good tip. What I'm finding is when I'm trying to make these cute little triangles of this cheese, this is a more crumbly cheese than I expected. I thought it would be more firm like a cheddar. And because it's not, that's okay. I actually like to see in fact, let me just square it off back here. One of the things I like to do with Parmesan is to have irregular broken segments like this. So I'll break it up into these little chunks, which again, I think just look really pleasing to the eye. And a secret, when you eat them, they taste better on your tongue because the thin parts dissolve onto your tongue a little faster and you get different flavor components out of the cheese this way, especially a hard cheese like Parmesan. So rather than fight this cheese, try to make it into the shape that I want it to, I'm just giving it its own little broken chunk look. And I do like that. So I'm going to pile those up on top of my other piece, and that fills it in a little bit. Bring the nuts over here. And I've got one more opening right here where I just feel like I need to fill in with maybe one more or two more. I really like these little pepperoni roses. So then maybe I will make a few of those. And then I'm going to feel like I'm done. All right, so here we go. I've got a skewer ready. I think before I go onto the skewer with I'm going to put a tomato on there, and maybe I'll put a little piece of cheese on each side too, just because I can. Okay, and here's my 3 pieces folded into the hot dog shape. Press it down, give it a roll. Gonna skewer that guy in there. There we go. I like that. So now the lucky person who gets this one off the board will get a little bit of the pepperoni with some cheese, the tomatoes on each side. In fact, if you did that with mozzarella, it could be like a little, you could probably weave some basil in there too in the summer when it's fresh. So little margarita skewer. So I'll put that down there as well. So that's filling in my empty spot. And I could just keep going. We could just keep putting food out all day. That's great. All right. So now, how do I feel? I feel like I've got a lot of color over here. It's a little white over here. So maybe I'll tuck a little bit more of my greens. Yep, I like that. That gave it a little balance. So the other thing I could do with my watermelon radish, if you end up having to find one, is if I take my peeler and I go around the outside of it. and I make a long, flat, red piece of radish shaving. I can roll it up like this. So I'm keeping obviously the bottom, the flat part I'm putting on the bottom, and I have this. So it came off in a little strip like that. And so I've got one more little rosette that I made out of my radish just by peeling it around the outside. And I can tuck those guys in just for a little interest here and there. So when you're shopping, if you're going to make one of these, just kind of shop intuitively. Try to think, like, as you go through the produce aisle and the meat aisle, like what might look interesting? What flavors might go well together? I like a little, as I said, mustard. I like the other thing I might add to this. I don't have one open right now, but I might put a little apricot jam in a pot on this, or some honey. That would go really well with all my cheeses and everything else. So there's my top-down view.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So then for this, on some of the charcuterie boards, you see that they put crackers on it too. For this, would you just do almost another board for crackers?
Yeah,
and not a board, but like a serving thing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I like to do that because I like to put my crackers on the side because I don't like them to get soggy. So sometimes when I put them in, I will sometimes, if I have some bare holes that I feel like need some, I'll fill a few crackers in, but I like to keep them crisp and on the side. And I know that not everybody, like I have a lot of people in my family who are gluten sensitive. So I like to keep like 2 trays, like here's the crackers you can eat and here's the crackers everybody else will eat. And that way there's nobody, ends up having an allergy reaction. So that's one of the reasons I personally like to keep mine separate. Now, if you're at a really big function and this is a really big charcuterie board and you'd have to reach way away to get crackers, then just for convenience, often they will build the crackers into the board.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, that is completely up to you. That's the nice thing about it. And there are some really fun shapes. There are those long grissini breadsticks that would make really pretty shapes through the board. You can get crackers with seeds that have all sorts of texture and color. They look really great. So you can just kind of trust your design eye as you're doing this, Got one more of these little, my little green onion flowers that got ready. So I'll put him in there. I love to eat those actually.
So my meat flowers did not come out of the cups. So what I did was I just turned them back right side up and left them in the cups.
Yes.
So they still look okay.
What kind of cups were you using? And
well, that's the thing.
If you...
I think I used too big of cups. I was using like a plastic, like a punch cup. And I think my cup was too big around for,
yes. Yeah.
So, and I only had 4 shot glasses. So, I was moving things, but
absolutely.
This has been a lot of fun and it's really actually turned out very cool looking.
That's great. I'd love to see it if you want to angle your camera down.
Well, yeah, we'll try.
I know it's hard. So don't try to lift your board to the camera. Try to lift so if you fold the laptop down a little bit, you should, oh, look how beautiful. That looks great. Are those yogurt covered raisins? My favorite food in the world.
Yeah, they are.
I love that.
And
we're
these
not
are
showing ours.
chocolate covered pretzels that are green.
Absolutely. It's that weekend. There's so many, this
and
week
dried
is
cherries
packed.
on the back.
Oh, yes. I love dried cherries. Yep. Perfect.
So yeah, I had to keep them in the cups because I was having issues, but that's okay. It's probably better for me. And this little board, this little bamboo looking thing right here.
Yeah.
You can get these on Amazon. They're disposable.
Oh, nice.
So they're great to take to people if they're, sick or something, and you can make a little board, for an older couple or a younger couple that just had a baby, and this
Mhm.
is dinner.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting your board back, which sometimes doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
Yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
spend money on a board. And then I think these ended up being like $1 each on Amazon.
We got it. I mean,
Fantastic. I loved too how you used your cucumber slices in the cup to make a cucumber flower. That's a great idea too.
That was on the picture. So I had the
Yeah.
Fēst picture up,
Yeah.
trying to get an idea. So
Yeah. So the things that don't bend, that aren't bendable in that way, can just be arranged in a ramekin. Absolutely. Such a great idea.
okay.
Yeah. And you know what? Never forget, we're going to eat this. It's going to be gone. Don't have any, don't be shy about your charcuterie board, because all of cooking is just practice, right? Everything we make, we're always practicing. So if it doesn't look, like hers or like mine, absolutely fine.
We're gonna show
I do a lot
where.
of cookie design challenge things. I'm like, you don't like the cookie, you eat the cookie's gone, try again. It's fine.
Oh, that looks great.
Beautiful. I
It's
love
probably
it.
not the cleanest, but I also made right here. I mixed some blackberry jam with the spicy brown mustard. And it did a
Oh,
nice little sweet tart taste that we really like.
that's a great idea. And I love your distribution of I think they're tomatoes, the red.
Yeah.
It's very pretty, very sparky. That's
Edible.
great. Beautiful. I love it.
we had like Italian salami that we sliced, so it wasn't quite as thin. Like next time I would buy the pre-sliced pepperoni type stuff, because it would have been
Yes.
easier for us to make flowers. Ours
Yeah.
flowers were kind of a mess.
Yeah. So yeah, anything that's thick like that. So you saw how Teresa took her cucumbers that aren't very bendable too, and she just used a little ramekin or a dish or a custard cup. You could even use a little mug, and you can kind of stack them all together. So if they're not bendable and you can't fold them around a cup, that's fine. You can fake it, or, you could just make a spiral on the board. That's fine too. I mean, hey, it's a charcuterie board. It doesn't have to be a flower. It's okay.
Yeah, these little disposable punch cups is what I use, because it was if this is just going home with someone, I don't have to get anything back at all. So
That's right.
I'm all about not having to do dishes afterwards either. So
Absolutely. After the last 2 years, I've done so many dishes. I look at every recipe with an eye to how can I cut down on the number of steps to not do as many dishes.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys on the West Coast, like you would worry about water and doing dishes, but I'm always like, oh, let's not put things in a landfill, because I'm in Pennsylvania, so we don't have a water issue yet anyway. Maybe
Mhm.
we're gonna have too much water on this side, actually. So,
I wish we could dig a trench and bring some of that, extra snow melt this way.
yeah.
But yeah, so we worry about, I worry about food waste and landfill and all the, we have all the ecological things happening in California right now. So I'm always looking at how to use up things, not create food waste, but also not to have to do too many dishes. So that's why a charcuterie board's a great dinner, because I didn't really have to use the stove or anything. So very environmentally friendly, very little power generated. It's great.
Yep. No, and perfect. It was 1 hour. That's perfect.
1 hour. That's right. We try to be on time. Well, thank you very much for coming today. We really enjoy these little 1 hour, $5 workshops. I hope that you take a look and see what I actually can't think of what the upcoming ones are, but we will hope to see you in another class or another workshop sometime soon.
I really hope you do the crepe Suzette again, because I've made that a whole bunch of times since you taught me, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's fantastic!" So it's so easy.
I need to try that one. I need to
yeah.
check that one out.
And it's very
Yes.
pretty.
So, we learning the little technique to make crepes, right, is many of the workshops we do, because they're little technique driven, you can really gain a lot of experience doing that one thing. And then it's so translatable to other things. So
I got so excited. I went out and bought a crepe pan.
Yay. Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's a beautiful crepe pan too. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I was gonna say, you taught us how to make shumai about a month ago, and I've made
Yes,
it
yes.
a bunch of times since then, and they're awesome. I mean,
That's
it's been
great.
Ah, that
super
sounds
popular.
great.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
So-
Yeah, my kids love the shumai as well. Yeah,
Mm.
that's
it's
great.
great. I never would have tried it on my own, but now I'm like, hey, I could do this. It's really cool.
It's the
Nice.
nicest thing you could say to a cooking teacher, you guys. You're just making my whole week. Thank you. It's a great way to start the week.
Well, thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. This was great. Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect. You're very welcome. Okay, hope to see you again soon. Enjoy
Bye.
your charcuterie.
We
you.
will. I think there's going to be 3 happy families in yours.
And mine, yeah, absolutely. My son probably is going to roll in about an hour, so I'll just put some saran on this one.
Yep.
Dinner's in the bag.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
A gazillion